Hello and welcome to episode 39 of our Conversation to Connect, Let's Get Real Talk, powered by Exceptional Connections. I'm Cyndi ONeill-Dady, the founder and chief connector of Exceptional Connections since 2009. At Exceptional Connections, we offer intentional and innovative solutions to boost your business. Each month, we nominate a different member of our Exceptional Connections community to have a meaningful conversation with. So be sure to make yourself comfortable with a cup of tea or a beverage of your choice and take notes. Be sure to add comments and questions to the chat box and engage with us during our conversation. So around the 45-minute mark, I'm going to unmute the lines and invite our listeners to ask questions, share their ahas, epiphanies, and enter into our thought-provoking conversation. So the inspiration of our bi-weekly Conversation to Connect, Let's Get Real Talks, is to create purposeful conversations. And we desire to be relevant during these crazy and uncertain times. And of course, to support our community to make an impact in the world and stay connected. So as we get started, I invite you to set aside the distractions that may be around you and invest your attention in the conversation that's about to unfold. Look for just one idea that you can take away and put into action today so that you don't cheat yourself out of the investment that you've made here. I'm honored to have Clara Stanley as our Conversation to Connect guest this week. And she's going to be, she's from Mercer Island, Washington. And welcome, Claire.
Thank you, Cyndi. Thank you, Chuck. I'm thrilled to be here.
Yes, so excited to be able to have a conversation with you about 5 strategies to reduce stress for better productivity in 2022. So before we dive into this timely conversation that's really so appropriate for all the things that are going on right now, people are realizing that stress is something that they need to really get a hold of. And as we were talking about at the beginning of this call, it's not it's here for a week and then it's gone. We've been in this for 2 years now. And so having, really powerful and useful techniques to be able to help us with our stress is more important than ever. So thank you so much for the timely information.
Of course.
So before we dive into this conversation, I want to take a minute to introduce Clara Stanley to those who are joining us on the line. So hello, everybody. And for those who are listening on the replay. So Clara Stanley is a certified functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, hormone cure coach, and holistic integrative health coach with a mission to support women to develop self-compassion, become empowered, and feel validated with their health. She helps stressed out women owners to fix and finally take back control of their fatigue, weight, and digestive health issues naturally so that they can return their focus on doing the things that they love. Sign me up for that. She does this by providing the right diagnostic lab tests and self-care resources so they can restore their business spark and focus. Plus look and feel good in their bodies again. We all want that. So Claire founded Creative Balance Health over a decade ago to help exhausted midlife entrepreneurial women like us identify and repair what's been holding us back with our metabolism, digestion, and hormones. She does this by offering health building coaching programs that provide accountability and focus on simple lifestyle strategies even busy entrepreneurs can do through diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction, and supplement support. So you can look and feel like yourself again. And don't we all want that? Remember the day before we were 30, right?
Yes, exactly.
So Claire, share with our listeners a little bit more about your journey.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me here. I decided to go back to school to become a practitioner, a health coach, in my late or mid 40s, rather, just after I had had a career in advertising and media, and there was a lot of stress. And I was successful, and then I'd started my own agency. I was sitting on a lot of boards. And then, I went through a divorce, and I was a single parent with 2 teens and dealing with the recession. And I had a father with Alzheimer's and a family emergency. And then lo and behold, I crashed. I couldn't get out of bed. And I think I wasn't alone. I'm not alone. I mean, these things are pretty typical for a lot of women in their 40s, or they're going through these types of things, especially if they're business owners. But I couldn't get out of bed. I was exhausted. I was canceling meetings. I had gained a lot of weight. I'd always been really fit, and I was really embarrassed about it. Plus, I had become just unable to focus and concentrate, and a lot of light sensitivity issues. And so I just felt like I was failing my business and my family. And I, went around, and all the doctors were telling me my tests were normal, or it was normal for my age, which I hate. And only eventually, when I was given the right functional lab tests, it was, I was diagnosed of having what was considered adrenal fatigue or chronic fatigue, and eventually hypothyroidism. And I was excited to finally know what was wrong, but I was given a lot of directions on lifestyle choices like gluten-free and things like that before anyone knew about it. And I was just overwhelmed by all the information and the things that didn't make sense. And I didn't really know, even though I appreciated the doctors that were helping me, they'd see me once every maybe 3 to 4 months at most, but say you need to make all of these sweeping changes. And so I always vowed that there had to be a better way to do this. And so that was sort of when I had an opportunity in my career to sort of make a shift. My youngest was on their way to college. I went back to school because I wanted to be able to help others, especially with the labs that finally made everything make sense to me the way I had gotten help, but also provide them sort of with a hand holding or explanation of why they need to make the changes, because it's hard for us to make changes in our life. Everyone knows that, you eat more green vegetables, stop eating sugar, get more sleep. This isn't new. The thing is how do we do this? How do we change those habits? How do we incorporate it in our busy life, especially if we're running businesses? It's, so it needs to be reasonable. And so because I have that background, I can bring that perspective to it and, do things maybe a little bit more gradually because we only have so much time.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing, your journey, because in addition to your credentials and the things that you've done to build your business, you're a real person and you've gone through this yourself. And I think that's beautiful because you bring to it personal knowledge of, your frustration and wanting to understand what's going on with your body and how to best take care of your body to go moving forward. Because like you said, running businesses as women is not an easy task. We have our households, we have our family members to take care of. And, I can relate to that. And I was a single mom for 10 years, raising 3 kids. And, I'm dealing with things in my health today that had I been kinder to myself, I don't think I'd be dealing with it. So it's really important that as women, we take care of ourselves. And the analogy of the mask, put your mask on first. Sure. It's really not selfish to take care of yourself, right?
No, honestly, it helps not only us personally, but it does help our businesses. It helps with our family. It helps everywhere to do that.
And we're good examples to our children as well when we take care of ourselves.
Exactly.
So I have to ask you this question as we move forward here. But, isn't stress just a normal part of life and business? We hear that all the time, right?
Sure, we do. It is part of business, but it doesn't need to be a part of business. it's the thing is, we need to make sure, I mean, stress causes like work setbacks, and it contributes to like 60 to 90% of all of our illnesses. And the other thing to note is that women have a significantly higher risk of stress related health and psychological problems than men. It's sort of how we biochemically process this. And so knowing how to manage stress will not only greatly improve your health, but it is going to boost your work productivity, focus, and creativity. And so you don't want to be, there is stress in the world, but you don't want to burn out. You want to be able to operate at your best.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does, because there's good and bad stress, right? So,
Right.
there's we all have stress that we deal with for families, in our business. Some of it is good because it motivates us to take action.
Sure.
But some of it, of course, as you're mentioning, could be cumulative and lead to adrenal fatigue, which is not good.
Right, exactly. I mean, not all stress is bad for you. There is, stress that can make things happen and move things forward and help us grow and develop. And that's referred to as eustress, which is sort of like the adrenaline rush an athlete will feel before a sprint, or if you're about to make a presentation, sort of the butterflies you feel in your stomach. Those are all good things, and it's also how you frame it, which I'll get to in terms of how we handle it. But distress is basically any influence, whether it's internal or external, that ends up leading to malfunction and disease. And when it's not addressed, it can ruin your mental, your emotional, and physical health. So there's external stresses like, fear and worry, relationships, feeling a lack of purpose, not being in alignment. A lot of us women entrepreneurs go through that. There's external physical, maybe we've had an accident or muscle injuries, or bad posture from how we've been sitting. And then there's sort of the internal hidden stressors. These are chemical or biochemical or functional, which is really a lot where I focus. And it could be inflammatory foods or pesticides, or a lot of sugar or caffeine. A lot of the over the counter and even prescribed medications can cause problems and stress in our body. And then if we have like a gut problems with pathogens or poor sleep, our immune system starts to go. And so all of these contribute are types of stress that we deal with.
Right. And it occurs to me that it's not just one. So it could be a combination of that cause this amazing, crazy cocktail of,
Sure.
Symptoms that are going on in our body that it's hard to identify because it's not just one thing. And it could be even layers of things, right?
Right, absolutely. There's a lot. And I'm not perfect. I go through obviously my own periods of stress, but now I have the tools to know to see it or feel it or check it. And then I know what to do when that happens to try to make my, body recover. So I'm working at my best. So
Right.
It's not to say that stress, we should just not have stress. Things are going to be stressful. We're living in very stressful times. It's sort of how we manage it, how we check it and see it is what is really key here.
And I love what you said when we talked earlier about, the awareness. So if you're aware enough to ask yourself questions and say, oh, I don't want to, end up like my mom, or I don't want to go through things that other people you've seen have gone through things. Just the fact that you're asking questions and aware, I think is helpful, don't you?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, there's a lot of signs that you can be aware of, even not within yourself, but let's say in the workplace. There's a lot of work related stressors. And we as women tend to be, we're high functioning and business owners, which means we're also have a lot of perfectionism. And that in itself can be definitely sort of when we're looking forward instead of present, that can create a lot of fear and stress. And how you can see that's showing up in your workplace is if you're telling yourself, I need to push through. I need to push through. I don't need a lot of sleep. I got to work this, and I need to make sure this happens. I don't want to let people down. But you'll start to see if you're having problems with your energy, or your concentration or your productivity. A lot of times you'll all of a sudden, it's like, wow, I'm just so tired all the time. I don't know why. Or you have a hard time, focusing on a lecture or a talk, or even in a meeting, you may find yourself sort of zoning out. And you may see you're maybe more accident prone, or mistakes could be happening. Or, you're almost avoiding taking on certain projects because you're just sort of overwhelmed at work, and you have this decision fatigue, or you're worried about how your business, financial worries, things like that. So but you'll see if you're taking on too much and getting less done. That's usually a sign that somehow the stress is going in. If you're self-medicating with food, which I can say, yes, I definitely, especially when COVID started, self-medicating with food, or, unfortunately, there may be self-medicating with alcohol. Alcohol consumption was just skyrocketed at the beginning of COVID. We're all trying to deal with it, or unfortunately, if there's drugs. So you just want to be aware if you're seeing things kind of not operating as they should at work. Make note of it. Maybe it is the stress that's kind of accumulating, and so you're just not able to move forward and be as productive or creative as you used to.
Well, I love the way you use the term distress, when we're, just to put it in context, the things that have an influence, external, internal, like you mentioned, that causes malfunction and disease. The other word that reminds me of is dis-ease, like the word disease.
Absolutely. Yes,
when I
those
heard
are
that
tied
years
together.
ago, it really opened my mind up, because really essentially, and you can, elaborate on this, disease is just that your body is not at ease, right?
Correct. You're right. And you end up having sort of this cascade effect of if you're keep pushing your body and in this stress situation, and you have this cortisol flood that will happen, and you can sometimes feel it in your body. If you all of a sudden you've got a colleague or a client say something to you that sounds like criticism, and note in your body how you're feeling it. Do you all of a sudden, kind of feel tingles on your arms, or are you sort of getting floaty, or are you reacting like, oh my gosh, I'm not enough, or this is the worst thing ever? Those reactions are literally, you can feel the hormones are kind of flooding your body. And unfortunately, if we're not releasing them through exercise or dance or whatever we're going to do, it can't exactly, you will see basically functions in our system start to shut down, or we're creating a lot of inflammation in our body. And the inflammation in our body can show up as aches and pains. It can show up as a lot of people are having, stomach issues where they're having problems with their digestion, or just cramping or things like that. It can also, and all of these are sort of interrelated, because then you may also have, the hormones are off, and all of a sudden it's like, wait, I'm having hot flashes again. I thought I was done with this, or inability to sleep through the night. So it is all related. And unfortunately, when we start having these issues, that can cause stress too, because we're like, what's happening, and why is this happening to me? And I don't understand. And it seems like it's all not related, but it is related. And it almost always just comes from stress, and which is how we perceive sort of all of our external outside world, what's happening to us.
Right. Well, since we're focusing the conversation today, which is, wonderful and timely given all that we're going through in the world. And, we talked about it. It's not just something that, we're going through for a week. It's going on 2 years. And so, strategies to reduce stress for better productivity, I just take us to the next a next question in regards to, what are some common signs of stress-related work problems that we can, watch for and be aware of? Because there's so much bombarding us. Sometimes we miss those signs.
Sure. Well, I mean, let's see how much, has anyone here experienced this in their life? So it's a lot of times it's sort of like perfectionism, like I mentioned before, sort of our high achieving, we want to be perfect. And we have these things where we feel like we're not doing enough. And basically we're focusing in the future. It's fear driven a lot of times, and we may not even be that conscious of it. We're multitasking as business owners. We're doing more with less. And so if you're finding yourself, you're being more reactive rather than proactive. All of these things will cause stress, and then the technology, immediacy, there's a social media, which is stressful because we're getting, again, the FOMO or not enough, or the 24/7 response expectation where we like, oh, I have to be on, and worried about, preserving your business reputation and the goodwill, managing clients, managing staff, retaining clients, retaining staff. All of these things are things that, that could be triggering. And one thing to note, check with yourselves and see if, you've had, let's say, a major crisis, whether it's at home or at work. Did you find yourself sort of having some sort of, health breakdown or health issue, maybe 3 months after that was resolved? Because that I've noticed, I've done this, it's a great sort of experiment to do. It's like, do a timeline of like all of your, sort of the major events in your life, personal, and then have it, on top of it, a timeline of the business ones, and then note health issues you've had, like where all of a sudden you had a sort of a health problem, and you'll probably see a pattern where it follows with each other. And so it's, and it's a great exercise to do, just to kind of help yourself become more aware of the cause and effect.
That's so true. Yeah, thank you for that, because it's important to have those reminders that we can catch ourselves if we're getting in those, those ruts that we've gotten in the past, right?
Right. I mean, how has stress impacted you in your life?
In my life? Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, as I mentioned, I was a single mom for a lot of years, and it puts a lot of stress on the family, on the children. And then the need to be able to provide for yourself. If you haven't been working, I was homeschooling my kids. And so, I'm dealing with things right now that, as I mentioned earlier, that I feel like, had I been more aware, awake, and alert to what my body was telling me, I wouldn't be dealing with them now. Who knows? But the important thing is I am taking care of myself now. I do make myself a priority. I still push myself. I'm a recovering perfectionist. I admit it.
Same.
I'm sure there's others out there, but it's important. I think what's happened for me is I'm realizing what my boundaries are. And in the past, I was called, and I thought of myself as kind of an Energizer bunny. Just keep going, just keep going. And I did. And I didn't, other than when I experienced pregnancy, I never experienced the plug being pulled out. Like,
Sure.
You're done. I remember in my pregnancies at different times, it was like, okay, I'm going to bed because there's nothing left. I'm just, at my bottom. And I'd never experienced that in my life. And now I experience that. I can't stay up 12 o'clock more than 2 nights in a row. And I used to be able to do that ongoingly because I'm a night owl, and because that's when I was most productive in college and getting through things. So, it's impacted me in that I'm actually in a good way, in that I'm now more aware, and I'm now taking care of myself better. Doesn't mean I don't push myself sometimes, because I do, that happens. But then I learn how to fill the bucket immediately after that. And
Sounds
I
good.
try to be proactive about the things that I knowing I'm going into a tough season, the things that I can, put out there for myself to kind of replenish.
That's smart. Being proactive is definitely being aware, and then being proactive are definitely keys to, avoiding any of the negative impacts of stress that
Yes.
we have. And I mean, other benefits that, if we manage the work stress, like you're, talking about things that you're learning to do, are feeling less overwhelmed, and because feeling overwhelmed and overloaded is not normal. It's not really the normal or the optimal way to be in your life or be in your business. And so you want to pay attention to how you interpret and respond to these perceived stresses, because, and by doing that, I'm sure you're finding that your productivity is improving and you've got better performance. You probably feel more confident, because you're emotionally feeling more on top of your game. Being able to be creative. I mean, a lot of us we're figuring out when are our most creative times of the day. And typically it's usually first thing before sort of the day's stresses have gotten to us, where we're sort of feeling more fatigued. So, it helps for better focus and better decision making, which is, important. And I think also, a lot of us struggle as entrepreneurs. We want to have simplicity or better flow and ease in how our work, structure goes, and how our day goes, and how our processes go. And we want to feel more in alignment with what our true purpose is, and, what are our core values and strengths. And so it is sort of this existential exercise where, you benefit that way, and you're benefiting in your business when you're able to manage your work stress, and managing it not only in, what you do at home or what you do to yourself, but then how you react to things that come up in our life.
Right. And one thing that just comes to mind with your talking about, flow, and actually, allowing your body, giving your body what it needs on the one hand, and the other, hand for me, I don't want to say this, just setting things up for success, because there's times that I know I need things, but if I don't, my strategy is staging. I'm just going to say that. I'm trying to work my way into that, and it's not coming out of my mouth. So I'm just going to say it. So staging for a bath, for an Epsom salt bath. If I lay the towel out and I take the Epsom salt and I, get it all ready, then I'm more likely to accomplish what I wanted to do by the end of the day. And I try to do as much body work as I can. I do acupuncture once a month. I do cranial sacral once a month. I do Pilates once a week. I, have my naturopath every 3 to 6 months. What else do I do? I do massage every 2 weeks. So those are things that keep me going. That's the fuel to keep me going. And I know that if I don't do those things on a regular basis, I'm not making progress in my health and my energy and my vitality and my mental clarity. I find myself slipping back. I think that's what you're saying, right?
Yeah, I think so. And I love your, talking about sort of staging, and sort of, it reminds me of, there's a book, Atomic Habits by James Clear, and he talks about creating habits and making it easier. So, and, starting small. I think there was a person who really needed to start working out for their health. And instead of having this sort of all or nothing, which is very common, high functioning perfectionism, it's all or nothing, we got to go for it full force. And instead, what this person was doing was just, putting on his shoes and his workout gear and driving to the gym, 3 times a week. He wasn't even going in because he was just trying to train his body to make this be normal and just taking these incremental steps. And so instead of it being just about the goal, it's more about the habits and how,
Yes.
where it becomes normal. And so I love, 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 you sort of staging and setting it up. And you also mentioned even in the beginning that you are taking sort of these preventative measures, even though you may not feel tired, your body functions better the next day, when you get your 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep.
Right.
So yeah, that's a lot of proactive, great habit.
Well, we're all learning what our body needs. My 63-year-old body needs a lot more than my 30-year-old body did, right?
I hear you.
We can all attest to that wherever we are. And what I'm hearing you say that's really confirmation is we just need to listen to ourselves. I know that if I can get 7 to 8 hours sleep, but if I go to bed at midnight, I don't sleep as well as if I go to bed at 10:30 or 11.
Yeah,
and it's a bummer because I want to stay up till midnight.
Yeah, exactly. Well, paying attention to your body is definitely like one of the 5 sort of stress reducing strategies that I talk about that you can do anywhere and anytime. And, it's something you can do. And
share those with us. Share these,
sure.
'Cause I know you have some easy stress reducing strategies that you've offered. So this is a great time to jump into that.
Yeah, well, just what you were mentioning, paying attention to your body is one. You sort of listen to the messages your body gives you and note where you're feeling stress. Like I mentioned before, we all, let's say you get some bad news from a client, or you're dealing with a staff crisis, or you have a deadline looming. And take a moment and see, are you feeling this in your body? Is your stomach tightening up? A lot of times I'll notice like maybe your fists are clenched or your limbs are clenched, like you're clenching your body, like you're prepared to, run or do something. Or jaws, are your jaws really tender right now? Like I was like, oh man, I must be stressed, because sometimes I'll, hit right here. It's like, ow, that really hurts. It's like, I didn't even realize that I was doing that even during the day. So there's things that you can see that you're doing, and just take a moment. Even when we block time during the day to be more productive, at the end of the block, take a minute to sort of just check in quietly and sort of scan your body from head to toe. And what are you feeling? And, what is your body telling you that you need to do? And you need to honor basically your body. So you're, providing it with clean water and non-inflammatory foods, not the sugar and the caffeine, where, some green vegetables will be great for you. And then also indulge the senses. Whether it's just getting up, or essential oils are really popular now. And those are definitely can help with mood or focus or feeling less stress or relaxation. There's certain like apps where I'll go to, like Insight Timer, where they have certain kinds of music that will help me either feel less stressed or more focused. And you can sort of set a timer and note what kind of music maybe helps you to be more productive. Or just body work, gentle massage, chiropractic, things like that, a warm bath. It's sort of like paying attention and honoring your body. Right. And then you mentioned sleep. I mean, absolutely, probably most important. We need 7 to 8 hours of sleep for optimal function. This is where our brain, our digestion, our hormones, there's muscle recovery. And if for any of us who are, maybe have put on a few pounds during COVID, if you need the sleep in order for your body to be willing to release that extra weight, because otherwise, if you're in stress, sort of fight, flight, freeze mode, your body is going to sort of slow down all of these different metabolisms and also want to hold on to the weight because they think, oh, you're in danger. And so it's sort of very primal what's happening. So there's that. And then, one of the other thing, does that make sense to you?
Yeah, yes, it does. And as you're sharing this, I just get this visual of all of our five senses. So that's a great reminder. If you're so stressed out and you don't know what to do, just like, what can I do for my nose? Like to smell something, like I need the sensory. So right now I have eucalyptus and lemon in my diffuser. And
Right.
so, you want clarity, you want to relax, right? So you take care of that with your nose, and then listening to something, right? It's pleasing to your soul, to your, you through your ears. So I don't know. I just had this image of catering to our five senses, like drinking water and, the touch, having a warm bath. So if that helps anybody, it just came to me that, if you're stuck, just think about your body in terms of your five senses and how you can, take care of your body, nurture your body, through a warm bath, through drinking water, through whatever. I mean, which we hear those things, but I think we sometimes, like one of the comments in the chat box earlier was that it feels selfish, to take care of yourself, right? But Linda
That's
says,
what we've
I'm
been
learning.
told. Yeah, we've been told that was sort of the, what we've been told. But again, we're seeing sort of the great resignation that's happening. People are realizing that they want a better work-life balance, and they're the stress. And so that's sort of, the culture is definitely shifting. There is becoming more awareness that this sort of grind is, their payoff for them is maybe not as much. They want to have just a more tranquil or balanced life. I mean, that was actually one of the reasons I named my, my practice Balance Health, because I was always trying to find a balance between managing, all the stresses at work and what people do, and then also figuring out how to feel healthier with it, creatively. So that's balance is very much key to it.
It is. It's critical. But I love what you said earlier about honoring your body is not being selfish. And it's so true.
No. And one of the other senses is taste. And, if you find yourself wolfing down food and if you don't even remember what it tastes like, you're not enjoying it, but also that actually causes problems in your digestion. Either you're gulping too much air or we're not chewing enough. And when you don't chew enough, the actual digestion of our food and all the enzymes that need to come into play, they're not activated. So chewing is actually one of the very basic things that I talk to my clients about, is make sure, that when you're eating, don't eat at your desk, go to somewhere else, don't have the TV on, and, sort of honor the food, be aware of it, be present with it, chew slowly, taste the food, take a moment. And so not only will that sort of bring you out of that sort of whirling dervish headspace from whatever the stress is, but your body gets to calm down and the function calms down. I mean, if you're feeling like you've got stomach aches or things like that, try chewing, try slowing down how you're actually even eating.
I love all the simple solutions that you're offering. And a lot of times we think it has to be complicated, or we have to take a drug, or we have to see the doctor. And I think first and foremost, I found in my own health journey, and this has been reinforced by my practitioners, is just to listen to our bodies and to give it the basics, give it water, give it sleep, chew your food, put your shoulders down, breathe. Those things go a long way to just helping us with our health. So we're talking about, 5 different stress reducing strategies. And so you just outlined number 1 of reframing. So talk
No,
to us about
actually,
the
well, reframing, I didn't talk about yet.
okay.
Reframing is, and that's one of the, so reframing is like, there's a quote from Hans Selye: adopting the right attitude can convert a negative stress into a positive one.
Mm.
And so and this is maybe a little hard, to right away understand, but it's how you respond to the perceived mental and emotional stressors.
Mm.
And it's almost like you want to break the codependency that you may have with life, where it's like, it needs, of course I'm right to feel stressed out because this thing is awful or whatever.
Something just happened to you, right? And you can justify that.
That's exactly. And so it's self-inflicted, though. We're giving the whatever it is that's causing us stress too much power. If we really think about it, is this really causing us to, the worst thing that could happen right now? Or are we sort of spiraling and imagining it, or, ruminating, storytelling, all of those kinds of things where we are giving something else a lot of power? And it's a human response. I mean, I'm not saying that it's just something that we do, and it's very primal. And a lot of this is hardwired from childhood. It's sort of the response of our verbal, nonverbal communication. And there's a quote like, what gets fired together gets wired together. So the patterns that we had in childhood to whatever was perceived as, whether it was a parent or a teacher, we may have, I think I mentioned before, sort of that fight, flight, freeze, very primal response. If we're, in a meeting and someone gives us constructive comments, but we're sort of perceiving it as this harsh rebuke, and all of a sudden we're, our body goes into whatever stress mode it does. Or a client says something and you're like, oh my God, they're going to fire us. Or they don't want to keep us. Know when that happens in your body. And something, like I mentioned, there's tingles, the jaw, the fist, limbs, primal perceived danger. One of the things you can do, especially when you're checking in with yourself, is telling yourself, I am safe. I am of value. I am enough. Sort of, there's this inner child type of dialogue people, talk about, but just sort of self-comforting yourself and being an advocate for yourself. Maybe you didn't feel like you had that advocate as a child, but you can be that advocate now. So just, it's a tricky one, but just being aware of it, because honestly, that how we respond because of this primal frontal lobe, hormone rush, that's really where a lot of the damage comes from, is because we're perceiving it like we're in danger. And, women, a lot of women will do the freeze, but there's the fight, flight, freeze. And we've seen this, explain where you see the animal being chased by the lion and, and they're fleeing. And it's a primal instinct. But the other thing that we sometimes, what you want to observe is that after the danger is gone, the animal will shake itself and sort of have these tremors and trembles. And they're actually know to release this trapped stress in the body, and so it's is very primal. This is a very primal response. And so you can actively, by just being aware and noticing how you respond, and it's not going to come right away. It's like, and especially that timeline experiment I talked about. If you can kind of go back and say, oh, I remember how my body felt when this problem at work, that was sort of this, milestone in your timeline. And it's like, how did your body feel? and remembering that. And then if you feel that again now, it's just sort of this active reframing of old messages, and that can create new patterns in our bodies and trait changes. And
that's beautiful
yeah.
reminder. Really, really, I love that. So adopting the right attitude, converting negative stress into positive one is so important. I love what you said about calming the child within, because essentially when you say I am safe as an adult, I'm like, well, I know that, but the child within doesn't.
Right.
And so that's really who you're speaking to, is that child within who, doesn't have the, worldly sense, ability, the experience. They just feel the pain and the, and the sense of confusion. So I love that that first reminder. So in the interest of time, let's move on. So
Sure.
Tend and Befriend. Tell us about that.
Tend and Befriend. This is a great, place to talk about it. Women, especially, they have a unique sort of evolutionary oxytocin mediated stress response to a potential threat or danger. And it's different from the more male fight flight response, where we do the freeze. And one of the ways that we can sort of recover from the stress or the tensions is by connection. And so finding safe relationships, a safe space to talk, to heal. Frankly, there's a reason why we have these women entrepreneurial groups, business groups, because it's a safer space for us than maybe we were dealing with when we were in the corporate world. And so these business groups, these, exceptional connections, provide sort of this ultimate safe support network. And, it's because we don't feel like we're the only ones. We can relax a minute and share with others and get help and commiserate. And so that's so important to have these types of groups, like the one that you're, putting together here.
Yes. Well, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. And when you say tend, it reminds me of nurturing. Like you want to nurture your environment and each other, yourself. It's multifaceted in that way.
Yeah, there's sort of this like brain, mind body connection, but there's a mind body disconnection. And you want to, even though in your mind you think, oh, I'm in control of everything, your body may be having a completely different reaction.
And that's when paying attention comes in.
Right. Yeah. And then just taking a breath. That's another thing that you can do, is just breathing. If you feel the stress in your body, one of the best ways you can manage this is to just be present, feel the emotions you're feeling, and then just do full, deep belly breaths, and it will calm your body down. Usually if we're stressed, our breathing becomes shallow or may stop altogether. So just breaking the cycle by taking, full deep breaths, it activates our relaxation response in the body. It's natural because we're, engaging the vagus nerve as we're taking these deep breaths, and it signals the body to slow the heart down, lower the blood pressure, decrease the cortisol. And so it's, and there's like other things that you can do, like with somatic experiencing, where you do like these deep throated, like VOO breaths, like 2-3 times a day. You're stimulating the vagus nerve, and it just helps your body naturally calm down.
So while we're walking, while we're meditating, praying, those are all good times to implement the breathing exercises, right? Doing Pilates, yoga, I imagine, for some people. So it just reminds me again of just like living in the present moment, how important that is as one of your strategies.
Yeah, so I had, like I talked about, reframing is one, tend and befriend, living in the present, which you just talked about, is take the time to just be and do
Mhm.
something that's going to calm yourself, like meditation, yoga, walking, forest bathing, which we can really do around here in the woods, sitting in nature and focusing on the current moment. For me, when I'm super stressed, I find having gratitude. We talk about gratitude journals, and
Yes.
I do, you write down, maybe if you're being stressed, add this in just to I do it almost preventatively. It's like, okay, I'm gonna, in the morning and evening, what are 5 things I'm grateful for? And then what I like to add is, what are 5 things I appreciate about myself?
Mhm.
Just to kind of bring it so that it's not just about external, but we need to appreciate ourselves too.
Yes, we do. We don't do that
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah. And then
Um,
so paying attention to your body, and then just the breathing or sort of the 5.
yes, and paying attention to your body. I really have appreciated this reminder from you that we have to listen to ourselves, because our bodies are telling us, that there's something wrong, and in many cases, what we need. But are we listening?
Absolutely.
Are we listening? And so thank you for those great reminders, and the inexpensive solutions to, essential oils, music, a bath. Those go a long way, along with sleep and water. So you had a bonus tip you were going to offer too.
Yeah, just, and the one you actually kind of already mentioned as well, and that is just moving our body and exercise. And I was talking about the animal, the prey that was running, and they're releasing that cortisol that's trapped in their body. And so doing some sort of like aerobic activity, or doing a silly jumping jacks or dance, just moving away from the desk and just moving
Right.
your body, it's just going to help burn up that trapped stress. And it could be you just doing walking 20 minutes a day, jumping up and down, shaking your body. It's silly, but it's effective. It releases serotonin, and so your body will feel good.
Mhm.
But the thing to be aware of is not to overdo the intensity, because you don't
Mhm.
want to create inflammation in the body. So
Right.
you don't want to have that added stress, if you're feeling inflamed, to make it worse. But take 10 minutes before every hour. I mentioned the block, get out of your chair. I think a lot of us, we have like these Apple Watches or other devices now that'll, tell us you need to move.
Right.
It's like, get up and move, or listen to it instead of ignoring it. And that
Yes.
just helps, things like that.
Yeah, I love
Like
it.
take a meeting outside.
It reminds me of when I was homeschooling my kids, and I read that the optimum time to learn. Now, this is kind of aside from what we're talking about, but I'm going to bring it back. So, the optimum learning curve for kids, adults as well, is 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes of intense focus, whether it's emails or writing a note or writing a paper or whatever we're doing. So, I always had my kids, we had timers set in those days, and my daughter would get rewarded. She'd get to jump up, and we actually literally like do a jumping jack, jump up, and go play the piano for 10, 15 minutes. That was her break. So we need to give ourselves those breaks as well, is what I'm reminded of. Exercising gently so we don't cause more problems, but giving our bodies the opportunity to release that tension. Just like
Yeah,
you said,
absolutely.
the animals do that. Well, thank you so much. This has been a great conversation. And before I open the lines for any questions from our listeners, so be preparing your question if you haven't already. I want to you share a little bit about ways that our people that are listening or catch this on the replay afterwards can learn more about you, what you do, and be able to, get to know you better.
Great. Well, let's see. First of all, just curious to, like which one of those 5 methods or 6 methods, resonated with the audience, or, any of you. Which one would you try first, or are there things that you've already been doing for yourself?
That's great. We'll address that in the chat box, and we can follow up with that as well. So
Sure.
I know you have the website,
Yeah,
creativebalancehealth.com.
right. Creativebalancehealth.com. If you want to learn more, you can go there. You can contact me. I offer complimentary health discovery sessions. They're 30 minutes, or even office hour chats where you can just ask me a question. And, there's no pressure. It's not a sales call. You can just ask me questions. And then I offer a free guide on my website. There's 10 easy steps to naturally boost your energy for better work-life productivity at any age. Go to my homepage on the site. You can click on the Yes, I Want to Know More, and you can download the guide. And then for a special ECN offer, I think we're going to put the link in the chat. You can get a workbook that I offer my clients, an energy recovery success workbook that has a lot of tips, but also has room for you to fill out and, do these check-ins, and, whether it's mantras, meditation, foods. And so that's a really useful tool that I'm offering to everyone.
Thank you. I added that to the chat box. I'll add it to the description notes that will be posted on YouTube. But do go to creativebalancehealth.com, and if you click on the Energy Recovery Success Workbook, then you'll be able to leave your contact information so that Clara can, put you on your mailing list as well, right?
Sure. Yeah. I mean,
resources.
There's lots of, if you go to my website, you can sign up for my Balanced Health Boosters newsletter, where I offer a lot of tips, or links to the blogs that I write, usually like every 1 to 2 weeks, or any resources that I think are going to be valuable. Or you can, contact me with a question, or just sign up, schedule 30 minutes with me.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for all the resources that, all the information that you shared today in our conversation to connect, all the resources that you generously offered our community. You're a wealth of information. It's just been a joy to be able to have this conversation with you. So anyone who would like to address Clara's question that she put out, which of the 5, kind of anti-stress measures, resonated most with you that you would like to talk about, or feel free to ask your question, share an epiphany or aha. So if you could unmute yourself and feel free to ask away.
Hi, Cyndi, it's Linda.
Hey, Linda, thanks for joining us.
Oh, I guess I could start the video too. Wait, oh,
okay.
Geez. Oh, video. Okay, whatever. I don't know, it's not starting.
You're good either way.
Well, you know what's going on, but I guess I was listening to it. I had a lot of stress in my life and a lot of things I was trying to deal with, and then I got in a bad car accident with a hit and run. So that just kind of blew up for me things in my life that I know I need to work on, besides healing now and dealing with all this from the car accident, but it's so much more than that. And I just wasn't taking care of myself or listening to my body and the stress I had. And so my thing is just, it's like, it's a bit overwhelming. I don't even know that I got the outline of the things, the 5 or 6 strategies. I just kept writing notes. And so it's all just a big bundle of notes. But I know the first thing I need to do really is just really focus on body work. I can't work out really right now, but I can do, I'm going to be starting therapy with massages, but paying attention to my body and not just, pushing through, which is what I do. I'm really good at, and I'm a fast worker and I'm a good worker, but then I come home and I don't have a life. So I need to change that.
Well, I'm sorry that you went through that. There is also, if you didn't get everything, there is a blog post on an article I wrote on my website called 5 Simple Mind Altering, because of the mind body strategies to reduce your stress. So pretty much a lot of what I spoke about today is there for you. And it's so easy to get a hold of. But yeah, just, taking, stress can, sometimes we are finding ourselves more accident prone if we're in a lot of stress, and certainly having that kind of trauma, physical trauma is stressful. But I'm glad to hear that you're, wanting to sort of check in with yourself. It's important. And also, don't be so hard. I mean, self-compassion is one of the things that I really try to remind us perfectionists to embrace. It's whatever you're doing is great. You're doing just what you need to do right now.
Thank you.
And also reframing, the first of the stress reducing is, bad things have happened to all of us in our lives, but
Sure.
how do we process that, right? How do we shift that to, and I kind of heard you already doing that, Linda, is, you realize that there's ways in which you haven't taken care of yourself. And I can, attest to that myself as well. But now, given what's happened to you, you're really aware of how much you need to take care of yourself. And that's good.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
Even thinking like the accident, when you were talking about reframing, I wrote accident and I wrote equals I get a new car. So, and then I'll hit and run. Okay, more mindful of my money, because I have to be, because it's turned me upside down a little bit, and they don't know who he is yet. Did this. So, but it is, I can focus on what I can do and not what has happened, pretty much. I mean, there's things I need to take care of, but it's like there's a lot of good things I can focus on and people in my life. So that's where I'm going to choose to put all my energy.
That's beautiful, because it's not about being in denial, right, Claire? It's not about being in denial.
You need to be present and, finding, when you're in really dark places, and, we've all have them where it just feels overwhelming. What I've found, and you kind of talked about this too, Linda, sorry, that it's like for a modicum of grace, when you have that in a stressful situation, is to be, what am I grateful for right now? And sometimes those could be lessons learned, or, that you still have, what is it you still have that you're grateful for? What do you appreciate? Appreciate the strength that you're showing going through this. There's lessons happening. So that's why I really like the appreciation for what it is you're doing, because you're doing something positive for yourself. Even the awareness. I appreciate that I got the lesson, that the universe was telling me. I appreciate that. I know I need to make some changes. I appreciate that I'm going to honor myself by getting a massage, things like that. So, that's sort of the self-compassion part of this.
That was definitely missing in my life. That's the selfish part that when you're in it like that, it feels like, oh, you're being too selfish. It's like, I got to do this or that. But it's like, if you don't, like the oxygen mask thing, if I don't take care of my doctor said, go home, don't go back to work. And you're off work now until I say you can go back, because I have a concussion. So instead of pushing through, it's like and I was like, he goes, you need to do this. Like, you need to go home. And I go, but, and he could tell, he goes, you're going back to work, aren't you? And I go, well, I have to at least tell her, but he's like, you need to put you first and just do that. And I honestly didn't know what to do with that. I came home and I was just dumbfounded. Like, how do I do that? I don't do that. And so that's been, I've had a lot of time to think about it. So this last week, but it just makes me sick to my stomach to think about that, how I don't put myself first and how I'm distracted from I distract myself from putting myself first. So
in the past.
In the past. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Tell yourself that you are of value, that you are worth it, that you deserve this time. You are enough. Those are things that we kind of need to remind ourselves, that we do in fact deserve this. It isn't selfish.
Yeah.
Self-love, right? Loving ourselves.
Self-compassion, self-love.
Mhm.
And the bathtub that I always thought was too small and I didn't like, oh my God, I love my bathtub and my Epsom salt baths and my lavender oil. I'm like, I've lived here 10 years and I never took a bath in the bathtub before because it wasn't the bathtub that I wished I had. Like stupid stuff like that. And I'm like, I love my bath. I clean it. It's like, it's perfect size for me. I wish it was a little deeper, so the upper body doesn't stick out too much, but it is, I have a bathtub. It's like, how many people don't have bathtubs? I mean, I have a bathtub. I can sit there and soak in it and I feel so much better afterwards. And here now I'm using it. So
Good.
I love that. Yeah.
I love it.
I love it too.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Linda. Thank you for being on the call and for being so raw and sharing your journey. And this is a recent accident that you've had. So,
Yeah.
you're on that path right now, but it's a beautiful reminders. So, Claire, you mentioned you have a blog on a similar topic, or
Yeah.
similar
There's
maybe I can get that link and put it in the description.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can.
Okay.
Let me see. I can put the link in the chat box right now.
That'd be great. Then Linda can have all the notes for the steps and everything, and our listeners as well.
This has been a hot topic of late is stress, and so people have been coming to me asking. So, anyways, it's in there in the chat now.
Awesome, thank you. I'll add it to the description notes as well for our listeners that are listening to the replay. So, anybody else? We've gone over a little bit here, but this is just a great topic and very timely. Thank you, Claire, for your, just heart and desire to be of service to our community, exceptional connections and beyond. So anybody else, feel free to unmute yourself if you have anything you want to share or a question that you have to ask. We have an expert right here. Take advantage of it. So, okay, well, I think we're going to go ahead and close if nobody has anything else to share, but I just want to give you an opportunity to just share any closing comments that you want to leave our listeners with, Claire, before we end this conversation today.
Well, first off, thank you, Cyndi, and thank you, everyone listening or watching, especially in the Exceptional Connections Network universe, for having me here. And I just, again, my passion, my mission is, to feel self-compassion and empowered when it comes to your own health, and just to be aware and to feel validated. Whatever you're feeling right now is okay. It's, don't worry. It's like, oh, I shouldn't, the shouldn'ts, just, be aware of that. That's stress right there.
Right.
So, that's the simplest thing, is just to sort of love on yourself.
Yes. And don't should on yourself.
Right. That sounds a little funny, but yeah.
When I hear that, that's what I hear is like, I shouldn't be feeling like this. I shouldn't be doing that. I shouldn't be this way. And that really keeps us from feeling what we need to feel so that we can do the right thing. And I love all the just really simple and no nonsense, different ideas that you've given us today. So thank you so much. My reminder to everybody is to remember to make every connection an exceptional connection, and to really be present, as Clara was talking about. And, we are here to support one another at this challenging time, and to remind each other that it's important that we need to nurture our relationships and ourselves, right? We have to befriend others as well as ourselves. So thank you so much. Looking forward to doing this again. And thanks, Clara, for your time and sharing your expertise so generously with our community. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye, everyone.